This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we're going to talk about why fraud perpetrators are not brave people and why when Progressive Insurance sued them, they just gave up. And why when an insurer sues fraud perpetrators to defeat fraudulent claims, they are shocked to find that they did not respond. Fraud perpetrators, therefore, after a default judgment was entered, must pay the proactive insurer that sued them. Plaintiff Progressive is an insurance company authorized to transact business in South Carolina. Plaintiff issued insurance policies in South Carolina to Defendant Boyce and nonparty Williams Elite Trucking LLC, which are the subject of this lawsuit. Plaintiffs served Johnson, Hay, Boyce, Hugue, and Transou. Defendants have not appeared in this action. In Progressive Northern Insurance Company versus Jamari Williams et al., a July 1, 2024 decision of the United States District Court for the District of South Carolina, the District Court was asked by Progressive to enter judgment based on the default. On May 3, 2024, the Clerk entered default against defendants, and plaintiff filed a motion for default judgment against the defendants seeking declaratory relief as articulated in the complaint. Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 55B permits the court to enter a default judgment upon motion by a party and to conduct a hearing to determine the amount of damages if necessary. A Rule 55B default judgment is appropriate only where the court determines that the well-pleaded allegations in the complaint support the relief sought in the action. The appropriate inquiry is whether or not the face of the pleadings support the default judgment and the causes of action therein. Since a default does not itself warrant the court in entering a default judgment, the court must determine that there is sufficient basis in the pleadings for the judgment to be entered. Plaintiff's complaint and accompanying motion contain well-pleaded allegations of fact and proper claims such that the defendant admit the allegations in the complaint. Simply put, that 1, as to Boyce, the 2017 Ford U-Haul truck involved in an accident number 2 is not an auto under the Boyce policy. Second declaration. 2, that as to Boyce and Hugue, the defendants involved in said accident knew each other prior to accident number 2, and that accident number 2 was staged for purposes of insurance fraud. 3, as to Transou, Johnson, and Hay, the defendants involved in said accident knew each other prior to accident number 3 and staged the said accident for the purposes of insurance fraud. And 4, as to the defendants, plaintiff is entitled to recover payments made and costs incurred because of defendant's fraud and misrepresentation. And therefore the court concluded that plaintiff's motion for default judgment against Johnson, Hay, Boyce, Hugue, and Transou, and granted plaintiffs the declaratory relief requested in plaintiff's complaint as to these individuals. In my opinion, insurance fraud perpetrators are not brave. When an insurer like Progressive gathers evidence that it can prove it was the victim of fraud, it may act proactively, as did Progressive in this case, seeking a judgment refusing to pay further, and for money judgments against the fraudsters. They refused to respond, allowed a default to be entered in a money judgment. Hopefully, Progressive will continue in its proactive actions and will take the profit out of the crime by collecting on the judgment. This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zelma.com/blog. You can subscribe to the blog, and you will be advised of every blog posting, usually 5, sometimes 6 a week. It's free, and you can also subscribe to these videos on rumble.com and on youtube.com. And if you do, I'd appreciate if you click on the like button on YouTube and the thumbs up button on Rumble. And if you're interested in further detail about insurance, insurance fraud, insurance law, and insurance claims, please consider, for a very small fee, subscribing to my Substack publication. Thank you for your attention.